In this video, I want to discuss constructors again, but this time a different type of constructor, and this is called a static constructor. So a static constructor is very similar to a normal constructor, but it is executed the first time either an object of a class is created, either a static attribute of a class is used, or a static method of a class is used. So what this means is it's very similar to a static attribute. Remember when we create class data? Well, we can also create class methods. And in our case here, we're looking at creating a static constructor. So there are a few rules, as always, and these are: we must declare the static constructor in the public section of our class. There is never an interface for our static constructor, so we don't use any parameters at all. And then a static constructor can only access static attributes of their class. And if you think about it, this sort of makes sense, because if we haven't instantiated an object, then attributes of an object will not be filled in, they will not exist. With static data, that static data can be accessed without an object being instantiated. So for a static constructor, it sort of makes sense that the only thing it can really touch that exists in the class are those static attributes, that class data. So when we refer to this static constructor, when we want to code it, it's important that we remember that this type of constructor is called a class constructor. As you can see here, class constructor. And the syntax would be class method. If you remember back to when we declare class attributes, we say class-data. Well, this one is class-methods. And then we call it the class_constructor. It's a fixed name. We must call it that. So let's see how this looks in the ABAP editor. Back to our code. And what I'm going to do is move all the way to the top again. And I tend to put the class methods near the top under class data. So here I specify class method. And then I give it the name class constructor. Has to be that name. Okay, so this is static constructor. Then we need to move down to the implementation section and put in the code. So here we have our normal constructor. So let's, at the top of the implementation section, add our class constructor. So I use the methods keyword, or the method, should I say, and the name, class constructor. And as an example, all I'm going to do is just write out some text to our screen to indicate that this class constructor has been executed. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll choose char log equals char class has been used. So just set a data item there, and I'm going to write out char log to the screen. Simple as that. Now, of course, char log doesn't exist yet, so what I'm going to do is just scroll up, and I'm going to place this. I'm going to place it in the private section. There's no need for it to be visible outside the class at all. So if I come down here, and I'll tell you what, why don't I make this class data as well? Make it a length of 40. I hope that's going to fit in. 3, 5, 9, 10. Yeah, that's going to fit in quite easily. And I might as well stick a comment on there. Okay, that looks good. Class data, char log. Yep. Do a save. Let's do a syntax check. I'll tell you what, a pretty printer first. And a check. Excellent, looks good. And we'll activate the code. And now this class, this constructor is going to be executed, if you remember back to the slide, in our code when we create an object. But if we just had any code that just referenced the class data, it would get executed then as well. So let's see it in action in debug mode. Let's see if I've still got the debug on. I've got one there. It's probably not where I want it though. Or there. That's it. So let's test it out. So here we're going to create the object. So the first step, we can see the first thing it does is goes to our brand new class constructor. Fills in car log and writes it out to the screen. Then once that ends, it then jumps to the normal constructor. Processes that code. And once our object has been created, and if we double click we can see it's been created there, it's then going to write the underline to the screen, and we should see the car log written to the screen as well. There we go. Car class has been used, and then we have the underline. Let's move on. Okay, we've been looking at PowerPoint presentation slides for far too long now, so let's start to get into the ABAP editor and let's get coding. So in this first example, this applies to all the coding examples going forward. I want you to follow along with me. So open up your ABAP editor and put the same code in that I do, and then play around with it yourself, because that really is the best way of learning. So let's start off with an example program, and we'll build our first class definition. This is the package that I created earlier. What I'm going to do is just create individual programs so that we can just focus on what we've got. So this is one I was playing with earlier. Tell you what I'll do. I'll use this because it doesn't exist. So I'll create a brand new program. Now, what I'll do, I'll tell you what, I'll just make it a local object because there's no way I'm going to be transporting these. So I'll give it a double click. Here we have the basic report. Okay, so in this bit, I'm just going to scroll down. So just like any normal ABAP program, we start with report there with the actual report name, and we're going to start our class. Make sure you've got, by the way, make sure you've got syntax highlighting on, make sure you've got the the code help, so when you start typing it helps you with the actual ABAP keywords and so on. So as I start typing, we should get the little syntax help popping up. So we start with class. Okay, so that's the first keyword we have to key in. Then we have to give it a name. Now what I'm going to do is create a scenario where we're going to create a student class. So we're going to have a class called student, and then we'll add some attributes that help describe the student. So class student, and then as with the slides, if you remember, we have to start with the definition. So as we start typing, if I can type, there we go. Then we have the definition. So that's the first line of our class. Then the next thing I'm going to do is declare some data items. But before I can do that, I have to say where these data items are going to sit, what visibility section. Okay, so next, let's do, tell you what, I'll do a blank line, and we'll do public section. Then we'll start to declare, let's see if we can get it all uppercase, there we go, some data items. I'll create one called name, type C, we'll give it a specific length of 40. And what I'm going to do for this one, gender, I'm going to make it read only. Okay, so that's it. In our public section, I've declared 3 attributes, name, age and gender, of different types and I made gender read-only. It's pretty easy. I could, if I wanted, come over here to gender and give it a value. I could type value, and let's say U for unknown as the default. So next, we've got our public section. Let's create some attributes in a private section. So remember, I mentioned that in a class, first of all, you have to define your public section, then you define the private section. So let's do that. And then just like the other one, we can do a data statement. And let's create a password for this guy as well. So that's it. I've created a basic class. There's just one last step I need to add, and that's just to terminate our class definition. And we do that with end class. If I do a pretty printer, tidy it up. I will say with pretty printers, it can get quite annoying, because when you create classes and things like that and methods, it sticks all sorts of comments in, which I actually don't mind too much, but it really, stretches out your code, gives you lots of comments where half the time you don't really need them. You can see down here with end class, it just gives you some code or some comments here to help you identify what class it is. Let's do a check. Everything looks good. So then you can save, activate if it was a program. Obviously, we've really got nothing in our program here. So I'll just save the code, and then let's move on and have a look at something else. Let's have a look at how this course is structured. And I've split the course up into two main sections. The first section is going to be quite a short section, and we're going to review the ABAP language. We're not going to go in depth into detail, but we're just going to review some of the main components that make up ABAP itself, so that we are all on the same level for when we move over to looking at ABAP objects. So the ABAP recap, we're going to cover data types, how we create data types ourselves, how we use the standard data types in the system, how we can create structures using data types, how we use internal tables based on structures. Then we'll look at some of the subroutine functionality. How do we modularize code at the moment in standard procedural ABAP? So we'll go through those basic building blocks of ABAP. And then once we have got those covered, we will move on to ABAP Objects itself. Now, ABAP Objects can get quite technical. And when you go through this course, I want you to keep in mind it can get complicated because we're learning lots of new methodologies and techniques. It can seem a little bit overwhelming to begin with, but don't worry about that. Just work your way through the course, and if you can't remember things or it doesn't make sense, do not worry, because as we go on to the examples, you will see what I'm talking about. You will see some of the principles and methodologies put in place in code itself, and it should become a lot easier to understand. There's lots of new terms to get used to in ABAP objects, and some of the descriptions, the way things work, can seem very complicated at times. So work your way through, and you need to practice yourself. So I will set some questions and answers and ask you to create some programs yourself, and once you've done that, you can then continue with more videos to show how I would have written code to produce the solution that I've asked you to create. So without further ado, we're going to cover attributes and methods. They're the basic building blocks of ABAP objects. We're going to look at local classes to begin with. And if you're familiar with ABAP, you will understand, you'll probably realize that we can have local classes and global classes. I'm going to focus on local classes to begin with, because that will let us create objects ourselves, classes, and once we understand how to do it all manually, we can then create global classes using some of the built-in SAP tools that we have in our ABAP workbench. So we will go through creating classes, instantiating objects, we will call methods of objects, we will then move into inheritance, which is where we can share objects from one class to another. We'll then hit on something called polymorphism. Sounds a grand word, doesn't it? But that's a way of allowing us to create two objects from different classes that may be based on the same parent class, if you like. And depending on how we call the methods in those objects, they will carry out different activities, even though they're using the same code base. Don't worry, we'll explain it all as we get to it. We'll then move on to interfaces, which is another, I would say, a more advanced feature of ABAP objects. It's a feature of object-oriented programming itself. You know, it's fundamental to nearly all other languages. But the way we use it in ABAP, we will touch on it. And if you try to jump into it right now, you probably wouldn't understand. You need to work your way through the course. So what I'm trying to say is that can get quite complicated with the interfaces side. But once we've gone through creating our classes, you'll be able to understand it. Then we'll touch on polymorphism with interfaces as well. Then we'll go on to events and event-driven programming. Then finally, once we've covered all that, once we've worked out how to create all this code using local classes, we will go on to using the class builder, which will allow us to create global classes that can be used by any program within our system. And the class builder will help us. It's a tool to help us get the syntax right with our ABAP objects. There's a nice interface where we can create methods and attributes and things like that. And you'll think, well, I wish we could have started with this earlier. But by creating local classes, first of all, you'll get the thorough understanding, which will then allow you to zip through the class builder really fast and see how beneficial it can be for you creating programs going forward. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this SAP ABAP Objects programming course. My name is Peter Moxon and I'm the instructor for this course. Now this course has been put together for anybody who wants to understand ABAP objects. So the intended audience, as you can see on the screen, is for students who understand the procedural programming methodologies used in ABAP and want to learn the object-oriented techniques. Also, it's for experienced non-SAP programmers. I will say it will be a big benefit if you know your way around the SAP system, but if you have a fundamental understanding of object-oriented programming, then it shouldn't be too big a stretch to pick up ABAP Object-Oriented Programming. And lastly, it's for SAP consultants with a fundamental understanding of ABAP. Maybe you don't program for a living, but if you can read ABAP, then understanding ABAP objects will be a great benefit in your day-to-day work. Now let's have a look what this course entails. And we're going to start out with a fast recap of ABAP. We'll take a look at data types, data structures, internal tables, subroutines, just the fundamentals, so we're all on the same page, so that when we start looking at ABAP objects, we're all starting from the same base. Then we'll move on to ABAP objects itself. Obviously, this is the core of the course. And we'll start out looking at the fundamentals, so that's how to create a class, class attributes and methods and so on. We'll focus on local classes first of all, and quickly learn how to start instantiating objects. We'll learn how to call methods and the various types of methods that we can call. And then we'll switch focus and start looking at inheritance. Following that, we'll move on to polymorphism using inheritance and look at interfaces using polymorphism. Then we'll take a look at event-driven programs and how events within ABAP can trigger the code that we write within our classes. Then finally, once we're finished with that, understanding all the fundamentals, we will take a look at the class builder. And we will look how to convert our local classes that we've created throughout the course into global classes so they can be reused with ease. Now I do want to point out there are some course prerequisites. It will really help if you can navigate the SAP system. If you can't, if you've not done anything with SAP, maybe you're an experienced programmer in another language, then take a look at this Learn SAP Beginner Training course that I have on the website. Also,